If you really want to learn Spanish fast, you can't just do it any type of way without any direction. What you should have is a certain strategy, a Spanish blueprint for you to be able to learn Spanish faster. Luckily for you, I have learned by trial and error. I have failed so many times during my Spanish learning journey, and that has helped me to create this Spanish blueprint that I'm going to be sharing with you in this video. So the first tip of this blueprint for you to learn Spanish faster is to increase your vocabulary. To put it simply, the more vocabulary that you have, the more phrases that you have, and also the more sentences that you are going to have. And this is going to help you greatly with having conversations with Spanish speakers. Increasing your vocabulary won't just help you with your speaking skills, but it also will help you with your reading comprehension, your listening skills, and your writing skills. And each of these skills are foundational for learning a new language. You should also have a variety of vocabulary as well. So you're not just increasing the amount of nouns that you know, but you're also increasing the amount of adjectives, verbs, and adverbs. And this is going to help you be able to express yourself in Spanish in new ways and be more descriptive. You will also learn Spanish really fast when you are starting to learn more slang words and phrases from a particular country. And this is going to help you be able to connect with Spanish speakers at a more deeper level because you understand more of the jokes from a particular country, and you will also have more cultural knowledge of that particular country. Now, there is a caveat to increasing your vocabulary to learn Spanish faster, and that is you need to understand Spanish grammar. I want you to imagine Spanish grammar as screws of a particular piece of furniture. There are many pieces to this piece of furniture, let's say a TV stand, right? And without the screws, there's just a whole bunch of pieces laying on the ground and it's very disorganized. But once you put all these pieces together and you put all the screws in, then you have a final product and everything's all nice and clean and organized. Grammar is the foundation of the Spanish language, and without it, you're not going to be able to understand how to connect different words together for them to make sense to a Spanish speaker. For example, you could say different phrases like me gusta, acércate, no te vayas, y un montón de naranjas. And the thing is, I understand what words you're saying, but right now, I don't really understand what you are trying to say to me exactly because you're just saying a lot of different random phrases and they're not really making a real sentence, if that makes sense. Now let's use my knowledge of Spanish grammar. So I could say something like, me gustan las manzanas acerca de mi casa, pero no te vayas, hay un montón de naranjas también. So hopefully with that example, you really understand the importance of learning Spanish grammar for you to learn Spanish fast. There are so many different rules to learn, and these are really necessary for you to have a good understanding of the Spanish language, especially because a lot of the different grammar concepts that you're going to be using in the Spanish language are not the same as in your native tongue. Another cool thing is when you start to learn more Spanish grammar, you're going to realize how many different ways that there are to say different sentences. Like the one I just said, I can say that in many different ways. Another thing that you will need to learn Spanish fast is Spanish learning resources. You should always keep in mind how many different Spanish learning resources that you are studying all at one time. It is very possible to be studying too many resources all at one time, and this is definitely going to decrease how fast that you can learn Spanish. And this is something that has happened to me many times throughout my Spanish learning journey. Having way too many resources all in front of me all at one time, or switching back and forth in between these different resources too much. Let's say one moment you're reading 2 pages out of your Spanish novel, and then the next moment you're reading out of 3 different Spanish textbooks trying to understand Spanish grammar, and then a few moments later you put on a telenovela on Netflix for 5 minutes, and then you start to listen to a few Spanish songs, and then after that you open up your Duolingo application, and then you switch to your Rosetta Stone application, and then you're looking at 10 different tabs from 10 different websites to learn Spanish. It's moments like these where a Spanish learner can get very stressed out and overwhelmed because they're trying to do too many things all at one time. As well, they aren't seeing the progress that they want. They're not learning Spanish fast. They haven't finished a certain amount of lessons on an application because they keep switching back and forth between all these different resources. All of that can lead to burnout where you have no motivation to learn Spanish anymore because you are just so mentally exhausted. You will also learn Spanish fast by having a variety of different Spanish Spanish learning resources. So not just listening to a podcast only, but throw in a few episodes of a telenovela, or throw on some Spanish music, or even read some books in Spanish as well. And this is going to expose you to new vocabulary. Let's say that you're only listening to Spanish podcasts to study Spanish, but the thing is, you aren't able to find a lot of different other Spanish-speaking countries to listen to. So this is a reason why you should have a variety, so you can actually consume vocabulary from other countries, learn new slang words and new slang phrases, and to be able to listen to different accents as well. And honestly, it can get pretty boring if you're just studying the same Spanish learning resources day after day. And that's why it's really nice to have a lot of different Spanish learning resources available to you. That leads into my next tip of having fun while you are learning Spanish. If you're not having fun learning Spanish, then you get bored. And if you get bored, you start to lose all your focus. You're not going to be paying attention to your Spanish learning resources when you're actually studying, and then you're just going to lose interest overall in the whole process. And that's not going to help you learn Spanish fast at all. A good example of this was how I was studying at the beginning of this year. I started to watch a lot of YouTube videos where native Spanish speakers were cooking and they were narrating everything that they were doing. I was doing this for a while until I got really bored, and I didn't like doing it, but I tried to force myself to study this way just by watching YouTube videos and taking notes. I stopped learning this type of vocabulary completely, and that lasted for a few months, unfortunately, where I was not studying vocabulary related to cooking just because I was bored. What I should have done is try to use other resources that would have been more fun and made me more energetic about learning this vocabulary. So maybe switching to a podcast instead of YouTube videos, or maybe listening to songs about food, or talking to my Spanish speaking friends about food. Don't forget, your Spanish learning journey does not have to be boring at all. Every single day that you are studying Spanish can be very fun. You're just going to have to find the right resources for you, and then also explore different methods for learning Spanish. The next tip that I have for you to learn Spanish fast is to develop the habit of consistency. Let's say you had a New Year's resolution to study Spanish every single day for a full year, but February rolls around and then you stop studying Spanish every single day. And the reason why this is so important, because imagine how difficult it is to get back up to studying every single day. So that's why consistency has to be developed. It's not something that you just have randomly. You have to work on it a lot. It is the same thing when I started to think in Spanish for the first time about 2 years ago. I wasn't being very consistent because I would do it some days, other days I would not. And it was very challenging to do at first. I could only do it for maybe 10 minutes or something like that, but now I can do it all day long. So it has become more automatic. But this would never have happened if I wasn't consistently trying to think in Spanish for the past 2 years. And this is the same thing with other things that you're trying to develop as well. So that could be your reading comprehension skills. More than likely, you won't be increasing your Spanish reading skills very fast if you aren't actually reading your Spanish book. Let's say that you start reading a book in January, but then after that, you stop reading completely until November. So that's a very long time for you not to be reading, especially if your goal is to finish that book, number one. And then number two, if you want to increase your reading skills because you're not consuming all that new vocabulary in that book and making a lot of connections with the Spanish grammar that you're seeing. If you would like another resource that is going to help you learn Spanish fast, I recommend watching this video. Being organized and having a solid study plan and also having clear language goals is exactly what you need as a Spanish learner. Don't forget to check out the links in the description box of this video for more resources to learn the Spanish language on my channel. Esto es Spanish Blueprints. Me llamo Josue, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up. Y nos vemos muy pronto.